Hello everyone. So our first shot of the trailer shows the characters of Martin Krebs and Zora Bennett entering the museum where they intend to recruit Dr. Henry Loomis. In the Vanity Fair article, it was stated that over the last few years, since Jurassic World and the dinosaurs and other prehistoric creatures roaming the planet, people have become a bit bored of them, and not as in awe as they once were. This complacence seems to have led museums to close their dinosaur exhibits due to lower popularity. However, the biggest thing about this shot is the skeletal display in the center that is likely of a Tyrannosaurus Rex with a banner that reads, "When dinosaurs ruled the earth," falling from the ceiling, a reference to the iconic shot from the end of the 1993 film. We are introduced to three of our main cast members: Scarlett Johansson playing Zora Bennett, a covert operations expert looking for a new path in life. She is hired by Martin Krebs, played by Rupert Friend, a representative for a company called Big Pharma that is developing a cure for heart disease, and is orchestrating this mission to an island to extract the DNA from the three largest prehistoric species of land, sea and sky. Krebs also explains that all the species they need exist in one isolated place, as it has been stated that since their introduction to the world off of the islands, most of the planet's biomes have been largely inhospitable to the prehistoric animals, and that those that remain exist only in isolated equatorial regions. In the case of the film, the mission seems to be easier and will take a shorter amount of time for the company in the place where all three are there together. My theory behind the dinosaurs' intolerance for a majority of the Earth's environments could be down to their tree frog spliced DNA that allowed them to survive in tropical environments, and I would love to see if this was addressed in the film and if I'm actually right, but I've been wrong before though. It's just an interesting thought. Both Krebs and Bennett are here to recruit Dr. Henry Loomis, a paleontologist played here by Jonathan Bailey, who will likely be responsible for the extraction of the DNA from their target species, as we will see later. It is also stated in the Vanity Fair article that he has had an admiration for Dr. Alan Grant, one of the franchise's legacy characters portrayed by Sam Neill, so that's an interesting tie-in there for this character. We are then shown a few shots of Zora Bennett and Dr. Henry Loomis on the island in a pasture of long grass, a reference to 1997's The Lost World. Following this, we are shown a shot of a long whip-like tail rising from the grass. Our protagonists look up in awe to find the mighty Titanosaurus, a new sauropod for the franchise. Now, Titanosaurus is a dubious genus that was discovered in India's Lametta and Kalakarichi formations and lived during the Maastrichtian stage of the late Cretaceous. It is considered dubious as the fossils that we do have of what are labelled as Titanosaurus cannot actually be distinguished from related titanosaurian sauropods. However, this can allow this animal to have some creative liberties taken in terms of its size and how it looked, with it now being likely the largest sauropod in the Jurassic franchise, which would make it heavier than the previous holder of that title, Jurassic World Dominion's Dreadnoughtus. When it comes to determining the largest animals, it isn't by length or height, but by overall mass. So even though Titanosaurus might not be taller than, say, the Lost World's Mamenchisaurus, though it possibly could be, its weight is the determining factor. It's the same as we see with giraffes and elephants. Giraffes may be taller than elephants, but elephants weigh a lot more. We can see two Titanosaurus in this beautiful shot, with the limestone cliffs in the background. The overall design is beautiful, certainly the most interesting looking of all the sauropods in the franchise. It has been rumoured for months that several different sauropods inspired Titanosaurus' design, particularly the Alamosaurus, a titanosaur from late Cretaceous North America, which seems to make up the bulk of this animal's build. Margosaurus, a dicrasaurid from early Cretaceous Argentina, known for the possible sails supported by neural spines along its neck, used here for the sails that you can see at the top of the neck and the base of the tail. And also Camarasaurus of the late Jurassic North America, which likely inspired the rounder head. It does, however, look to have also taken inspiration from Diplodocus with that whip-like tail that trails behind them. The colours and patterning are also beautiful, with an overall tan colour broken up by lighter stripes up its neck, and amber-coloured sails make it an eye-catching addition to the franchise. Next is a beautiful shot of a Quetzalcoatlus flying amongst a limestone mountain shrouded in fog with another flying a bit higher in the distance. A large portion of this film was filmed in Thailand, and the limestone mountains of Southeast Asia have often been an environment that I personally would think is the perfect backdrop to a film of prehistoric animals. Then to a port in what I assume could be a country in Central or South America, given the island that the film goes to is supposed to be off the coast of Suriname. It would make sense geographically. This set was however filmed in Thailand, as that is why we see similar limestone mountains in the background as we do on the island itself. This is where we are introduced to Duncan Kincaid, played by Mahershala Ali. He is also a covert operations expert, particularly in how to get to and navigate Black Ops sites. We get a few shots of Zora talking to Martin about Duncan, but the most interesting thing here is what is to her left. These teeth are part of the jaws of Otodus Megalodon, and as concept art that was leaked a few months ago has been shown, these jaws are indeed that of Megalodon. This doesn't mean that the titular shark will feature in the film, but does hint at a possible existence in the franchise already. We are given a glimpse at the team's boat as it traverses the waves, and then a shot of Duncan's hand pointing towards a screen showing a topographic map of what I can only assume is a part of the island. We see Duncan, Zora, and a currently unnamed character played by actress Philippine Velge looking concerned about what has appeared on the screen. I'm not sure about what part of the movie this is taking place, but it could be a scene that we will see a bit later in the video. Following this is a shot of what I assume is a geothermal power system, which is the same system that was used by InGen on both Isla Nublar and Isla Sorna. Then a shot of a derelict facility with damaged electrical fences powered at 10,000 volts, the same as those used at Jurassic Park. We get a quick shot of Duncan Kincaid saying to Martin Krebs that no one is dumb enough to go where we're going, which was just a fun line I wanted to include here. Afterwards are shots of some of the operatives part of the team, including actor Ed Skrein, gearing up with their weapons, and a briefcase that contains both weapons and an arsenal of what appear to be various different darts. Then a glorious shot of their vessel approaching the island shores with limestone casts peppered across the bay. The first thing that came to mind when I saw this shot was that of the boat approaching Isla Sorna in 1997's The Lost World. We are then given our first glimpses of the abandoned InGen testing facility, where they experimented with different DNA combinations to de-extinct the prehistoric creatures that now run free on the island. Zora gives narration over this segment, stating that this island was a research facility for the original Jurassic Park. It is stated later that this island is home to species that were too dangerous for the original park, and that they are the worst of the worst. It can also be assumed that for many of these species seen in this trailer, that they didn't have any available method of housing some of them at the park, or had to keep the dinosaur population at a manageable level, such as only having one T-Rex at a time, or only so many Dilophosaurus and Velociraptors, which can explain why those species are also present on this island. It can also explain the designs of many of the species seen in this trailer, particularly the ones that have appeared in the franchise before, but they are different as they are InGen's own previous versions of these creatures that are a result of different DNA splicing as compared to the designs that we are used to. It is currently unknown as to whether Dr. Wu, the head geneticist at Jurassic Park and later Jurassic World and Biosyn, was responsible for the creation of these animals too. So given that the creatures seen in this film are largely mutants and InGen experiments, the designs can be forgiven for not being paleo-accurate, or in the case of the Quetz, Spino and Mosa, we will see later, also don't resemble previous designs as the versions of these species that we know. And most likely, the ones that we know didn't exist when these ones were created. In this first shot, we see who I assume to be Loomis and Kincaid wandering through a degraded lab with amber-coloured chambers on the right-hand side that likely stored some of the experiments that were being conducted in this facility. We then get a shot of Duncan Kincaid with a somewhat spooked expression from what he is looking at. Behind him, we see a degraded InGen logo, and the title of the facility, which other than laboratories, I cannot identify, unfortunately, as it is far too blurry. Actually, no, I think it says Laboratory 03. Okay. Never mind then, it doesn't say laboratories, it says Laboratory 3. So there are likely multiple of these. And the next shot is our first glimpse at some of the testing that has occurred in this facility. However, it doesn't look like this is set in the present time of the film, but possibly in a flashback to when it was operational. But here we see a velociraptor in stasis, but it has suffered a genetic mutation which led it to develop at least a partial second head. This raptor also shares a striking resemblance to the striped velociraptors that we see in the Lost World. Then we get a shot of Loomis looking at a mutated embryo with outstretched membrane inside a tube of formaldehyde, which is used to preserve organic specimens from decomposing. We then see Zora in the long grass with her rifle that I believe fires a dart that extracts the DNA of an animal once it hits, and then drops off once full. A similar technique is used to sample whales, which may be how they will collect the DNA from the Mosasaurus that we'll see later. This is followed by a shot of Duncan Kincaid and another currently unnamed character played by Bashir Sylvain. I hope I've got that right. Looking up in wonder and possibly a hint of trepidation. And it is clear as to see why, as the next shot shows the team looking up at sheer cliffs with 3 circling Quetzalcoatlus flying between the rock faces. We then see Martin Krebs asking Loomis as to why they have to collect DNA from an egg as the team prepares for an abseil down the cliff. This is followed by a shot of Loomis beginning his descent off the edge of the cliff, with thundering waterfalls on either side and the jungle and streams below. Then a shot of Zora skillfully descending down the rock face. Loomis then proposes the possible alternative of getting a sample from the adult Quetzalcoatlus that he says is the size of an F-16, a fighter jet introduced to the United States Air Force in 1978, which has a wingspan of about 10 meters. This is actually equivalent to the current estimates of the real Quetzalcoatlus, but much smaller than the one seen in Jurassic World Dominion that had a wingspan of close to 30 meters. The team reaches the mouth of a cave, which is actually an entrance into an ancient temple that is hinted to have been built by an ancient civilization that once existed on the island. It has elements inspired by Incans, Aztecs, and Mayans. Leaked set photos from a few months ago of the temple share some resemblance to a serpentine head, which led some to speculate whether the giant snake Titanoboa might be featured in the film. But we now know that this is the entrance to Quetzalcoatlus' nest. A shot of Loomis and Zora in the nest as the sunlight breaking through the ceiling is briefly blocked by Quetzalcoatlus flying overhead. Some extra details in here: the head that is seen on the column above Zora could actually be inspired by the god Quetzalcoatl, which is an Aztec god, and was the inspiration for the name of Quetzalcoatlus itself. A quick shot of Zora gives us looks at some of the other intricate details of the temple columns. Loomis can then be seen holding an egg and the syringe with the Quetz DNA inside, looking terrified as they have both realized
Mommy's very angry.
We are then introduced to the species of Quetzalcoatlus looking vastly different to the other Quetzalcoatlus created by Biosyn in Jurassic World Dominion. The animal's most notable features being its smaller, more accurate size, but a larger, thicker beak with a sharp end, and a protruding horn-like spike. It also possesses quills on the back of its head, and this individual could possibly be a male with its bright blue coloration around the head. It is seen swooping in to protect its nest from our invading protagonist, as Bashir Sylvain's character hangs from his ropes. We see it lunge for Loomis, and then Zora kicking it in the beak. Likely in the following minutes, Loomis is pulled out of the cave entrance by his rope, possibly having wrapped around the Quetz during its attack as the rope is strung upwards. And you can see him being thrown from the cave entrance out and almost getting whiplashed when the rope manages to catch him. Zora has a similar situation, but she manages to brace herself with some protruding stone at the mouth of the temple. We are given a quick shot of one of the island's shorelines. However, this is then followed by a nighttime shot of Kincaid igniting a flare, and the glow from the flare illuminating this shot of Zora in red light. In the shot, she looks frightened and so may involve a creature that is revealed a little later in this trailer. The next shot shows Loomis with possibly a member of the stranded family the team encounters, with Martin stood in the background. We then see the 2 feet of a velociraptor, recreating the iconic shot from Jurassic Park's kitchen scene. The raptors are rumoured to share a resemblance to the velociraptors from Jurassic Park 3, which to this day are the best raptors in the franchise. No kidding, they were peak. They were absolutely amazing. We are given our first glimpse at the mutant dinosaur rumoured to be called the D-Rex. In this shot we can see the stranded family, Zora, Loomis and Kincaid on the far right. The creature appears to walk on its knuckles similar to great apes, which could hint towards the possible inclusion of a species like a chimpanzee being part of its genetic makeup. However, this is not a hybrid, so I don't know whether it just be the tree frog. Could be. But director Gareth Edwards said in the Vanity article that the overall design of the animal was inspired by Star Wars' Rancor, the Xenomorph from the Alien franchise, and the Jurassic Park Tyrannosaurus Rex. This shot is followed by members of the family looking on in horror at this beast. Many people have confused this mutant to be a hybrid, but a hybrid is a blend of different species, while a mutant is a result of mutated cells and/or anatomy. This one appears to be a malfunctioned T-Rex, with possibly some of the tree frog DNA and whatever else could have been used in the dinosaurs mutating its actual physical traits. In this shot, we can see Duncan using a flare to distract it, and Zora yelling out to him. However, this is likely towards the end of the film. And in this shot, we get the clearest possible look at this animal's face. Really showing off the Rancor elements and the Xenomorph with that bulbous head. And so this is likely towards the end of the film, and I'm curious to see how this will unfold. Whether there will be a dinosaur fight like it in the Jurassic World movies, or whether the mutant will be eliminated by just the humans, or perhaps it is quickly dispatched by a large predatory dinosaur like one of the Spinosauruses or a T-Rex. We see an InGen Jeep burst through a gate, and then the family and the team running through an underground passageway likely being pursued by a predator, possibly the Velociraptors, and Zora firing a gun down a much smaller tunnel. This is followed by a surprise appearance of Dilophosaurus, roaring and expanding its frill at a member of the stranded family, and behind the girl and behind the foliage may be the sleeping T-Rex that will lead into the raft chase scene that is being lifted from the original Jurassic Park novel and adapted into this film. The Dilophosaurus itself looks to be similar to the Jurassic World Dominion Dilophosaurus, but with a more spotted frill. However, we were never really given an origin for those Dilophosauruses, whether they were a colour variety from Nublar, whether they could have been Dilophosaurus from Isla or were they created by Biosin. We don't actually know. If it is what Sorna's Dilophosaurus looked like, it could answer this question of the Dominion Dilo's origin. We then showed the new Tyrannosaurus Rex being introduced in the film with a new colour pattern, and also appears to be stockier than the Jurassic World Rexes, much more akin to the original Stan Winston animatronics used in Jurassic Park and The Lost World. We are also given a second good look at the new mutant, seemingly in the flashback, which could be the same as that of the two-headed Velociraptor from earlier. It appears to be smaller here, and you can see many of the aspects of its design like the Rancor and Xenomorph much clearer here, with its long arms, its jaws and bulbous head. It also possesses a smaller pair of arms between the larger ones. We then see the T-Rex trying to catch the father of the Delgado family in the river during the river raft sequence adaptation from the original Jurassic Park novel by Michael Crichton that had Alan Grant and the Murphy kids trying to sneak past a sleeping T-Rex, but inadvertently waking it up and then getting on the raft, and the Rex proceeds to chase them down a river. We then get a shot of Henry Loomis saying survival is a long shot, which is probably my favourite line in this trailer, as it seems as this will be taken seriously, as the director, executive producer and writer David Koepp, returning from Jurassic Park and The Lost World, have confirmed that there will be many deaths in this new installment. So, look forward to that, I guess. Now we come to possibly my favourite part of the trailer with the return of the Spinosaurus. And it's not just one, but a pack of 3 Spinosaurus hunting together with the Mosasaurus. Both animals have undergone redesigns looking closer to their paleo-accurate counterparts, but not 100%, which I think is a good thing as this is a movie, not a documentary. But this hunting behaviour reminds me a bit of grey reef sharks hunting together with white-tip reef sharks on coral reefs, a collaborative effort that allows for a more successful hunt with the smaller predators driving their prey out and into the open, potentially into the firing line of their larger partners. In a following shot, we see one Spinosaurus establish dominance over one of its packmates. Then another more chilling shot showing one of the Spinosaurus with the gold stripes running down its sail, much more clearly visible in this shot, and the colossal Mosasaurus in the back with a more accurate tail fluke. As for years, Mosasaurus were depicted with a crocodilian and eel-like paddle-shaped tails, but now we know they are somewhat more like sharks, but with a shorter top half and a longer lower half. And in our next shot, a Spinosaurus then lunges at one of the crew, I believe Philippine Velge's character based on the Vanity Fair article, and then a better look at a Spinosaurus as it slides off the side of the ship. I don't mind the design personally with its crocodilian-like head and the patches of yellow as its pattern. It isn't as good or as peak as JP3 Spinosaurus, but then again, they're not the same animals. They were created before the other and were less refined and perfected, despite being closer to our current understanding of the animal than Asset 87 in Jurassic Park 3. The trailer then ends with the Mosasaurus breaching and toppling the boat, and giving us a good look at the new design, which shows some pretty nice counter shading, more accurate dentition, and a lack of the crocodilian aspects of the Mosasaurus that was in the previous Jurassic World films. When it comes to the designs of the Mosasaurus, Quetzalcoatlus, and Spinosaurus, if we're using previous examples of versions of dinosaurs looking different to others, these would technically be the InGen Mosasaurus and Quetzalcoatlus, and the Spinosaurus as just a previous version of the Spinosaurus that we know and love, which in itself was an amalgamation but somewhat more refined than these new ones, you could argue. Otherwise, these Spinos are the franchise's accurate versions, like how Dominion portrays every species that appeared in the prologue, like the Giga, the Quetz, the Oviraptor, Iguanodon, as the actual animals that existed on Earth in the past, recreated by Biosyn with 100% genomes. But basically, these designs aren't the new norm. Like the JP3 raptors to the Tiger raptors and Jurassic World raptors, they are technically different species of the same genus. If that was to be made as hard canon, I'm not sure if it is or is not, where you have Dominion's Quetzalcoatlus being Quetzalcoatlus northropi, as it is supposed to be the accurate Quetz in this universe, and the new one being something like Quetzalcoatlus InGens, as I think the Pteranodon Jurassic Park 3 is called Pteranodon InGens. This would just be a good way to classify different versions of the same genus of an animal that has appeared in multiple forms across the franchise's history.